let's go ahead and chop it up. Yeah, I realized that Star Wars: The Phantom Menace came out 25 years ago. So on May 19th, it's just Sunday was not a good day to do this, and so there was a lot going on. Dealing with the fallout of the economics of the Biden-Harris administration and the Democrat Party rule. So there was a lot of discussion about that and about future changes in the, in that kind of arena. So that are too personal to talk about, really. So I'm going to avoid that topic as much as possible, or at least personal details of that. So yeah. But I think Americans know how much they're economically and financially suffering during this Bidenomics. So that being said, but we're not going to talk about politics or economics in this video, however. Not anymore. So the less we say about that, the better. Right now. We're going to talk about something fun. Star Wars. As owned by George Lucas and 20th Century Fox, not Disney. There you go, boy. Well, but all right. Yeah, I know a lot of the content creators. They want to talk about. Yeah, I know I'm late, really, in making a 25th anniversary retrospective review on Star Wars Episode 1, Phantom Menace, but I figured most of the other ones were just kind of lame anyway. I mean, they're just like blah, 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 blah. It's the 25th anniversary, the prequels, la, la, la. Sure, they have better editing software. Sure, they have all the fancy bells and whistles. Sure, they may even have millions and millions of followers and all of that. And it might be financially successful channels with ad revenue and all the rest. But what a lot of them don't have is many of the people did not work at American Multi-Cinema. Maybe some did. I worked at AMC Theaters. So that's kind of the difference when it came out. So some of these people, they weren't even around then, or maybe they didn't see the prequels until they were little kids, stuff like that. So, well, I mean, I guess they can't be really older than 25. I mean, to see it, you know, uh, in its prime. Oh yeah, but now working at the movie theaters back then, I was 19 in the year 1999 back then, and and up to that point, there hadn't been a Star Wars movie for 17 years since 1983. And that in 1983, I was barely out of my diapers, so I didn't see the original trilogy until I was like in kindergarten, like 1985ish. So I grew up in Baytown, Texas. Went to So by the time kindergarten rolled around, I was 5 years old. I started watching the original trilogy by George Lucas and 20th Century Fox. So I wasn't old enough to see it in its first run in the theaters. I wish well, no. If you had, you would just be older, and it would probably blow ass, So it's more fun to be younger. And but anyways, it's still a big part of the 1980s childhood, even though I didn't see it in its first release, first run. Just like. And so in Baytown, Texas, at the Quail Hollow Apartments, it's all ghettoed out now by, I don't know, illegal aliens or. Yeah, I went back to go see the old apartments, Baytown, Texas. Kind of like go down memory lane. It was like in, I guess about 2013. And I was like, these apartments are really old now, man. They're really ghetto. And there's like illegal aliens everywhere and shit. I'm like, what the fuck? This is what happened at this place. And then actually the gas station was still there and the apartments. So it was actually a good memory lane. Even like the first pool that I swam in in kindergarten, it was still there. I mean, everything was still there. So it wasn't like it was ripped down and I was like, oh, what is this? It's a Walmart now. It wasn't like one of those feelings at all. No, it was really nostalgic. It was really like a really cool feeling. Time wasn't standing still. Things were getting older. They were turning into ruins, Kind of like, I guess it's like Jenny, the princess from The Princess Bride, Robin Wright. She goes home and she sees her old dilapidated place she used to grow up that she grew up in as a little girl, and then it's all ruined and they got stuff all over it. Well, I mean, my shit, like maybe my old elementary school was like that. But, so the apartments were still there. They were just run down from the 1980s or 1970s or something. They're just extremely ghetto, run down, roaches and just a mess. And then they used to have a stop and go, right there in Quail Hollow Apartments. It's not called Quail Hollow Apartments anymore. But The gas station was still in the right place. It was taken over by Valero. It really seemed like they had just painted the store Valero, and they hadn't even ripped down the store. I think it was like the same stop and go from like the 1980s, the same convenience store and everything. The reason I'm talking about this is not just to give you a frame of reference, but also they had a Star Wars Atari arcade in the back, and so not only was I watching Star Wars and Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back eventually, and then Star Wars Return of the Jedi, but they had this Atari Star Wars game that you got into the cockpit, and it was the old graphics and everything. But I still have really fond memories of getting out of kindergarten and going in there and getting in the cockpit and fighting for the rebellion and defeating the Empire, the evil Empire, and so yeah, it was really immersive. It was like it was a sit down cabinet Atari arcade, and you got in it, and it was like you fought against the evil Empire. It's mostly the trench run from the Death Star, and so it's really exciting. Crappy old graphics and everything, but still pretty excellent. It was an immersive arcade experience. So. So there was a lot of hype after the first trilogy was done when it was found out that George Lucas was going to make prequels to Star Wars. He reveals that everybody saw episode IV, and people probably thought in 1977, what does that mean, episode IV? What is that? Well, I mean, you can figure out that it's a Roman numeral that means 4. Episode B. All right. And people really weren't even looking at the episode numbers, I'd say, at first. They were just immersed in the experience. I use that word immersion a lot. It's escapist fantasy, science fiction fantasy, Star Wars. So it's like, oh, well, you have the day-to-day, trying to survive, pay the bills or whatever, or deal with people or whatever. You're stuck in traffic or whatever the shit is. The rat race. But then you go see Star Wars. And it's like, wow, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's like this magical mystery tour. And so it's an escape from the humdrum day to day. And yeah, it's great for a little while. And then you have to go back to the bills and the traffic and the shitty people and all the corruption. And then you go back to that. But then for a little while, you get a break. So for a little while. You get a little break until the dogs of society howl, just for a little while. That's some good Dunkin' D's nuts. Good D's nuts. Good Dunkin' Donuts. Or Dunkin' D's nuts. Refreshing. And go ahead and put the, I don't need that much soap. So a lot of people would watch Star Wars. They wouldn't even really think about the Roman numerals originally. And then then it started to go through Cinescape magazine and through all the entertainment outlets and everything the buzz was that George Lucas, starting back in 1994, was going to not only remaster the original trilogy, episodes 4 through 6, but that he was working on the prequel trilogy, the rise and fall of Anakin Skywalker in the Old Republic. And the rise of the Empire, that he was doing the prequel, episodes 1 through 3. And so the internet was in its infancy at that time, 30 years ago. But the internet would grow, and then the buzz would be on the internet. It would be in the magazines, be in the papers. It would be on the entertainment shows, and then so yeah, it started to build up. The hype, was building, and George Lucas was on Skywalker Ranch developing the technology and everything, and he famously started to redo parts in the original trilogy that we had grown up with, that we gotten used to. Han Solo shooting Greedo first. Now, I never had a problem with Han Solo shooting first because Greedo was there to kill him. Han Solo kills him first. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, Greedo's the bounty hunter. He's there to, get the money, or he's there to kill Han Solo. So I'm like, well, this guy's a mercenary. He doesn't give a fuck about, he just cares about getting paid and collecting his bounty. And so I'm like, of course. But George Lucas famously makes it so that Greedo shoots first. So it doesn't look... George Lucas was concerned that it made Han Solo look like a cold-blooded killer. I don't think that fans thought that. But anyways, he made little tweaks and changes, and he was making the cities and everything bigger and using CGI to expand the canvas of Star Wars. I didn't really have a lot of gripes with it, especially there was not many shots of Han Solo and Leia and Chewbacca and C-3PO and R2-D2 arriving in Cloud City, and so in Bespin. So that was pretty cool, that there was extra scenes of that. There wasn't really a lot of scenes of the Wampa, the ice monster, so they did more scenes of that with Luke Skywalker, and they expanded a lot of stuff out. They even made this really bad scene. They put in back the scene where it was the the Jabba stand-in was some Scottish guy or something. He's like, or something. It's like Solo. When are you gonna get my money? And shit. I don't know, Irish or Scottish or something. The original scene is hilarious. And then George Lucas and Industrial Light and Magic, they digitally enhanced the scene to put Jabba saying, "Hey, Solo, are you gonna get my money?" And then so he makes an early appearance in the trilogy rather than being just in Return of the Jedi. So I don't know if I like that. I mean, what's my biggest? Was it Greedo shot first? What was the biggest change that was really oh man, reverse history really sucks, because then if people could just change history, like they could change language, then they would become like gods. They would become then they could just be like George Orwellian dictators, because then you could alter history to make it whatever you wanted to. Then the people of the future wouldn't even know. So, to me, it's Orwellian to change the past, okay, because only gods could alter the past. And it's Orwellian to change the language. That's Orwellian as well. So, all is well that is Orwellian, I guess. But since it's his own creation, that's fine. As long as it's his own creation, it's not a collective creation of society or civilization, then that's okay that he changes his own history, his own work. It's not a big deal, except for, he couldn't make any radical changes to his own work. Well, I guess he could, but then he would have risked fan alienation or something like that. So, since Star Wars was so successful and was so beloved at one time as the pinnacle of science fiction fantasy works at that particular time, and so there was a crappy dance that was there was the slave dance in Jabba's throne room, and it has this hilarious disco late 1970s, early 1980s track on it, and it's so crappy, but it's like so great though. It's like e da 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 do da e da ba da booga. It's so hilarious. Ba da do, and they have the like that 1980s saxophone, and it's like so fucking dated, but it's so just like it's fan, and for some reason there's like some fat lady dancing, where she has like warts and shit, and it's just all just insanity. And I kind of like that it was dated and it was insanity because like that's the way that okay, you're supposed to be watching a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, and it's supposed to be not dated. All right, but Star Wars being made when it was 1977 to 1983, people have long hair, they have big hair and big hairspray hair, and it's kind of like a time capsule too. Now George Lucas didn't spend the time to undate the hair, the big flowing hair that Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and everybody, and the big cinnamon rolls that Princess Leia has, but he wasn't gonna. He didn't really have the time or the now he has the money to, if he wants to go back and undate the Star Wars and make it like where everybody has shorter haircuts or something. He gets rid of 1970s hair or early 1980s hair, but he was upset about the dated song, I guess, and so he changed it into this big like musical number, and it sucks. I missed the old shitty song and like the fucking fat lady dancing and how fucking shitty it is. It's just oh man, yeah. So I grew up with the shitty song and the shitty retro shit, and I kind of missed that. And the redo of it, the CGI redo of the Jabba Palace throne room dance scene of the slaves, that was that's the only thing I didn't like that he changed. That was like you should have kept in the fat lady with the warts. And not that I'm into that kind of shit. I'm just saying it's so crappy. It's so crappy that it's like sometimes something is so crappy that it's like it's great. And that's a kind of a fine line to walk. Something so terrible that it's fantastic. That's a very fine artistic line to walk. But my God, with that original dance scene and that old song with the saxophone, he hit the nail right on the head. So I'm surprised there wasn't more people saying, "Hey George, that original scene was pretty funny. You should probably leave that in." And he was like, "No, that's awful. That's like disco music. Fuck that." Right, and that's his perspective. Like, no, that's so old. So in the original Star Wars trilogy, one thing the viewer may notice, episodes 4 through 6, there's a lot of melodrama, there's a lot of soap opera in it, there's a lot of space opera, there's a lot of family and friendship dynamics in the original trilogy, but there's a lot of action and adventure and sci-fi fantasy. And it's more like in episodes 4 through 6, it's more like go, 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 go. And when it does slow down, there's for a reason. Everything has a rhyme or reason, pretty much. And it's a big space epic, sprawling adventure. It's entertainment. It's pure fantasy, and it's very enjoyable. Not just to kids, but to adults too. because it has all these different elements of like a Western and space fantasy and adventure and action and swashbuckling, like the old Flash Gordon serials that George Lucas was trying to emulate and enhance for the audiences then of the 1970s, 1980s, and beyond. So he was trying to bring that old Hollywood magic to the screen again, and he succeeded more than I think he even had dreamed of at first. And George Lucas succeeded beyond his wildest dreams, let's say. I think with the allergies this spring and summer, I'm going to have to get some Flonase or something like that. Man, what's up with the bugs? After the rains and everything, all the bugs. You got the mosquitoes and the gnats and the flies and everything trying to get in. All the kind of bugs trying to get in here. Well, that's what happens when you live in a bayou, when you live in a swamp. There's going to be lots of bugs. So it's going to be like Dagobah from Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. Oh. So there was so much hype, story, speculation about a prequel trilogy. And then first of all, fans didn't really know how to deal with prequels. They're like, well, we've already seen what happened after. How can you make the beginning interesting? I guess it's from a storytelling perspective. That's what a lot of fans, when they hear the word prequel, they're like, oh God. You know, it's like, well, I guess the Old Testament can be interesting, even if you've already read the New Testament, I guess. But, oh, these are it's the origin story. Okay. But since kind of like episode 1 through 3 is like its own separate time frame, it does kind of, it does work well. So if that's how it's George Lucas's original vision is written, episodes 1 through 6. And so that's good. So some people said, well, George Lucas ruined the mystery of the episodes 4 through 6, the mysterious aspects of the Old Republic. Now it's just kind of like, well, you know, people would have been curious, well, how did this happen? And how did Anakin Skywalker turn to the dark side? And now they know. Now they know. Because George Lucas made the episode 1 through 3. If he had listened to the naysayers, then he would have never have made it. Well, if he would have listened to his darker half, I guess, like, hey, you know, no, everybody loves the mystery of episode 4 through 6. Why explain stuff? Yeah, why tell us every little detail? You know, we don't want our Star Wars to be like a Britannica or encyclopedia. We don't want it to be tedious. We want it to be this like fun thing, this mysterious thing that no one knows where it's coming from. We don't want every single detail of every single character, of every single aspect of the universe explained. We don't want to know what the Force is, right? Like we don't want stuff explained because it takes away from the mystery. It takes away from the public's captivation. Now, if God came down from the heavens and said, "Here I am," yeah, we're going to heaven. Yeah, we are going to be eternal beings, immortal, and that's it. And we're going to fight the devil, and I defeated the devil, and here I am. I'm gonna explain all the universe to you. I'm gonna tell you everything. You're gonna know every single thing. Then it takes out the mystery. It takes out the unknown factor of spirituality, doesn't it? Because then now it's like, oh, everything's gonna be laid out for you. Oh, okay. Oh, here's the manual to life. Oh, Yeah, they didn't really have that, when I was growing up, like the book to life. I was like, well, where's the guidebook to life? Where's the like the Bible? I mean, besides the Bible, but like where's the okay, this is what you're supposed to do in life. Like the instruction manual. I mean, like apparently it's not there. So yeah, I mean, so there's a mysterious aspect to the original Star Wars trilogy, and there's this mysterious aspect to life. And then if it's ruined, if it's all explained, then maybe people are kind of disappointed, right? Because so the woman is attracted, the sexy young woman is attracted to the guy who doesn't talk very much, the Han Solo type, the Harrison Ford type, right? Because he's like getting down to business. He doesn't say much. He's mysterious. So the chick wants to fuck that guy because that dude's really mysterious. Who is that guy? Well, he's coming out of nowhere. I mean, who is? Wow, mysterious guy, silent dude, tall, dark, and handsome. Look at this guy. So in the original Star Wars trilogy, politics is spoken of, but not a main story artery. It's not focused on politics and economics. They don't talk about that much. They don't talk about democracy that much. It's just pretty basic story. Good guys fighting the bad guys, and with some surprises, some pretty serious surprises along the way. But it's pretty straightforward. There's an evil empire that wants to dominate the galaxy, and then there's resistance, rebellion. There's like Trumpers that want to fight back against the Empire, or whatever. So there's like the resistance, the quote unquote good guys that want to fight against this dark, evil, corrupt tyranny that wants to destroy democracy and create a totalitarian, authoritarian, communist type, Marxist type state, and that the resistance are the people that want to fight back against that state from gaining ultimate total power. So, in a nutshell, so it's a story that people can get behind. Good guys resisting tyrants and evil, dark despots. So that is a story most people can get behind. So imagine it like the MAGAs, the Trumpers resisting Joe Biden, the Emperor Biden team. And of course, there's a lot of allusions to Nazi Germany with the stormtroopers, the Gestapo that enforces the will of the evil empire. And the The Resistance, the Rebellion, the Rebel Alliance, they're made up of just like normal, ordinary people that have to deal with this tyranny, and they resist this tyranny, this tyrant, totalitarian impulse that the evil empire has, and it's also framed in a light versus dark. So it's like dark side versus the light side. So. And the rebels are just caught up in this conflict, and so they can either choose, they could join the dark side and the evil empire, or they could resist it and fight back. So, viva la resistance! But so it parallels, like, I guess, the Revolutionary War. The freedom-loving Americans against their tyrannical king, King George III, and the British Empire, almost 250 years ago, coming up on now, and also parallels between the Allies resisting Nazi imperial rule and fighting the Nazis and their atrocities in World War II. So there's a lot of historical inspiration for Star Wars. You know, if you want to look deep into it, you can find it. You can find the inspiration, whether it's the Bible, whether it's Flash Gordon, whether it's the Revolutionary War or World War II. People can find the inspiration for it. It's there. So. This is an old film reel, and this is, can see that? Yeah, this is before digital took over the theaters. I don't know if there's enough light for that. Yeah, 20th century, oh yeah, there it is, 20th Century Fox. Yeah, but this is the teaser trailer for Star Wars Episode 1, and I took it off the print 20th Century Fox. That was just 25 years ago. So, kept it ever since. Theft was rampant when theft. Now you were supposed to return the reels of Star Wars to 20th Century Fox, who owned Star Wars back then. Before George Lucas, well, George Lucas owned Star Wars, and then Disney paid him $4.6 billion to give up the rights to Star Wars, and so. He still retains his historical place, which is creator and founder of Star Wars, but he doesn't have any executive authority to make new Star Wars, or maybe, you know, as a consultant or something like that, but he doesn't have any authority to tell people, hey, I want you to make this, or you have to do what I say. He doesn't have that kind of power, that kind of authority anymore. Like, this is the vision you have to do. So then Kathleen Kennedy, from who took over Lucasfilm after the Disney acquisition and George Lucas's payday of $4.6 billion, now she's like, put a chick in it and make it gay. Put a chick in it and make it gay. Is that funny on South Park, where Kathleen Kennedy goes to the restaurant and the guy says, ma'am, what would you like? And she's like, well, I would like the linguine, but I want you to put a chick in it and make it gay. And then the manager comes out, Kathleen, Miss Kennedy, we can't put a chick in it and make it gay. And then she's like, put a chick in it and make it gay now. Put a lesbian chick in my noodles now. And that's the funny part. Yeah, I like that. I like how she's ordering at the restaurant. She's like, put a chick in it, make it gay. The Force is female, and all this like feminazi kind of stuff. Yeah, pretty bizarre. But anyways, that's Star Wars after Disney acquisition. It sucks. It's not as good as the George Lucas 20th Century Fox Star Wars. It never will be either. Now, I know for a fact that Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader did not fight 500 times before the events in Star Wars Episode 4. So that's why I find these retcons to be troubling is because how could they have fought or met, 500 times before episode 4? They're supposed to be in hiding from the evil empire, Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi. So yeah, even if Ewan McGregor needs the payday and his sweet ass girlfriend is in the films or in the series, it doesn't make it, to me, it doesn't make it canon. It makes it stupid, more ridiculous. So now theft was very rampant at the theater that I worked at. It was a 30 screen theater, AMC 30. And there was a gigantic Phantom Menace sign. I mean, this gigantic Phantom Menace banner in the lobby to the 30 screen in the main area. Fucking huge. It was like, I don't know, it was just massive. And then right before the movie opened, it disappears like that. I was like, holy fuck. So someone, probably a movie theater employee, jacked it. I wasn't at the 30 screen yet. I was at a 10 screen theater when I took this. You're supposed to give all the trailers back and all the film back to the studio is basically what you're supposed to do. But I was kind of thinking, I think I unspliced it from the old film reel and I said, this is the first Star Wars movie in 17 years. And I was like, I didn't jack banners or movie posters or anything like that. I didn't jack, entire displays of Star Wars Episode 1 like some other folks did. And now how could they bust you if you're on the inside and there's a huge banner and it goes missing? Well, I guess they would have to have CCTV. They would have to have some kind of surveillance. Surveillance wasn't the biggest thing back in the 1980s or 1990s. Now there's cameras everywhere and they're really good quality, right? So if typically movie theater employees would get some movie theater pins and they'd be satisfied. All right. But if they thought it was going to be the most epic movie of all time, now that changes the equation, doesn't it? Now, if there's going to be the most epic movie to ever be released in the history of mankind, well then that changes the thing. Now, normally the movies come and go and employees and managers just go, boop. Yeah, it's just a movie. Yeah, most of the time you just say, it's just another fucking movie. Yeah, good guys versus bad guys and explosions and hot chicks and cool looking dudes, and it's just the same old shit. Explosions and the MacGuffin, and it's just the same old movie we've all seen. It's just the same story since the age of the fairy tales. It's just Robin Hood fighting the Sheriff of Rottingham. It's just the same old story. It's just repeated over and over again. In an endless Hinduistic dialectical loop, So, in fact, Star Wars itself is like, most people think it's like Christian mythology, but it may be Hinduistic as well, with the endless cycles and the loops of birth and rebirth and death and life and all that stuff. So even though probably most people think it's a Judeo-Christian kind of a Western fantasy tale, it definitely has Eastern mystic elements. You got like samurais and you got you have these spiritual concepts of light and dark and birth and rebirth and endless cycles that take place over long periods of time that play themselves out. And so, yeah, it's a lot deeper. If you just look at it like as, you can just look at it like, okay, this is just entertainment. This is just a popcorn flick, which it is. Space opera, soap opera, enhanced. But if you look deeper, you can find deeper things in it if you want to go there. So You can find deeper influences and deeper truths. Um, so then this big banner goes missing in the movie theater, and I'm like, that was a massive fucking banner. Someone took that shit. Either it was a manager, it was a supervisor, or it was a fucking. It could have been a customer, but I think it was somebody who had access to that particular part of the theater. You know, you had to have if you're an employee, you could get access to the higher parts of the theater and the second, third levels and stuff like that. So yeah, maybe a customer might have stole it, but I'm pretty sure it was. I'm pretty sure that like more than half the thefts of the posters and the banners and the displays and the reels themselves were employees. So I took one. It was just like it was right there, and I said, man, like. I didn't even foresee that film would go out of style, really. I had no idea it would go all to digital. In fact, I think when they first started talking about digital films, I was like, oh, God, beaming in the films off a signal, onto like a cartridge or something like that. I said, oh, man, Well, there goes. Well, I mean, it was also because the more digital things become, then there's gonna be less jobs because there won't be a projectionist anymore. They won't need that job anymore. So somebody will lose their employment. So a guy who's been a projectionist all his life, they come out with digital films, and then all of a sudden the film and the projector is in a museum instead of like it's like the old like steam engine or something like that. It's like no one uses it anymore, and so it becomes obsolete. So there's also like an economic and employment component to that technological advancement, of course. Is that, I guess today you would say artificial intelligence is going to make certain jobs apparently obsolete. Now, that is assuming that the hype around artificial intelligence is real and that it's not just hype. So the people that are the tech tyrants that are pushing artificial intelligence, they would actually have to deliver to the public. I mean, the public's not going to use their products if it's like bullshit, if it's not really producing things. So if it's not generating wealth or prosperity, and it's not generating quality product, then people say, oh, this is just hype. This is just bullshit. It really can't perform on that level. Or replace human productivity, intellect, creativity, and so forth. So the public will find out very quickly whether artificial intelligence is bullshit or it can actually produce results. So, but I think unfortunately we're still very much in the hype phase, and hype can overwhelm reality very quickly. As we saw with Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, the hype was building for 17 years, and the magma was building up under the surface, and then eventually the volcano was going to erupt and explode. It was just inevitable. And so everybody was stealing all of these things at the old movie theaters because they thought it was like going to be the biggest movie, the greatest movie of all time. And so the hype was exceeding itself, and so just movie fans in general, not just Star Wars fans and Star Wars nerds and science fiction lovers. I mean, fantasy lovers. I mean, it was just. Then you got my generation, the millennials that grew up with the Star Wars trilogy. We grew up watching it on cable. And maybe some people were, maybe in Generation X, they were able to see it during the theaters in the first theatrical run. And so we had grown up with Star Wars, the Star Wars toys. I mean, my friend had the Ewok village in his bedroom, the entire fucking Ewok village. And I was like, whoa, this guy has the whole entire Ewok village. And then one of my friends that I grew up with, Jeff, his family could afford these kind of expensive, it was Kenner Star Wars toys, and with the original like Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and everything, and they were pristine, and they were expensive. But the idea was that he would get these, like $200 Han Solo intact in the package, and then he would get all these old Star Wars toys, and then build this collection. And usually he would only get those they would only be acquired through the internet, eBay, or I guess eBay was the only thing they had back then. And I suppose they had other online dealers in the late 90s. And so when I was a teenager, I would go over his house, and he would get like a Han Solo for Christmas, and he would get like a Luke Skywalker from the 1970s from the Kenner toy line. And then so the idea was that he would have all these things, and then eventually, when he wasn't a teenager, that they'd be worth like a shitload of money, like a Luke Skywalker or Chewbacca would be worth. It would start out like in the late 1990s being just like $100, and then maybe it wouldn't be $100,000 by the time he was 60 years old and getting ready for retirement or whatever, but that it would at least be a few $1,000s or something like that. That would exponentially increase in value, because it would be because scarcity and rarity causes the increase in value in society. So anyways, that's how economics is supposed to work, is that scarcity causes demand, which causes the price to go up. So that's the relationship of it. That's the correlational relationship between rarity and price. So that was the whole idea, is that you would have you would own something that would make money exponentially over time. So because it would increase in value because of its scarcity. I think that there was a lot of hype recently about something from the 1980s that seems so benign. It seems so ridiculous, selling for $1 million, an original pristine copy of Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. Now, people from the 1980s, my generation, 1990s, 2000, that grew up with the original Nintendo Entertainment System, or more like 1980s. It came out in 1985 when I was in kindergarten. Now, we never would have thought, or our parents, like, hey, go buy all that Nintendo stuff, and go get Mario and Duck Hunt and save that up. It never would have occurred to us that it would have sold at auction for $1 million, right? But apparently, whether that's bullshit or hype or not, still, you never know. Now, if I could take a time machine, would I tell my parents? Well, they'd probably think you were crazy if you told them at the time, right? Like, hey, Mom, what do you want for Christmas, son? And then you said, oh, I want the Nintendo Entertainment System with Duck Hunt and Super Mario Brothers. Oh, okay. And then they get it for you, and it's Christmas. You're like, all right, I got what I want. Because you have foreknowledge of the future in this particular scenario. And then your parents are like, aren't you going to open it, son? Oh, no. No, I'm not going to open it. I'm saving it for the future because it's going to be worth like $2 million. What? You're crazy. I'm opening that up myself, right? People wouldn't have believed it probably back then. So that's why my friend Jeff was collecting all these Kenner things. He wasn't just showing off to his Star Wars loving buddies. He wasn't just like, hey, I got the Han Solo. Ha ha ha. My parents are rich. You're not. Ha ha ha. Nah, 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 nah. No. It was looked at as some sort of future investment. So is the way that they were looking at it. Like, oh, this is old, from the 1970s or early 80s. Oh, now it's the 90s. It's kind of expensive now, but in the 21st century, it's going to be really rare and really. So that's why people were thieving everything that they could with Star Wars Episode 1 of Phantom Menace. They thought this would be the biggest movie of all time. People thought in general, this is going to be the greatest movie of all time because we hadn't seen it yet. We had ascribed legendary hype and expectations for this thing we haven't even seen. It's like, legendary. I mean, just epic proportions. So our era was thinking this was going to be the greatest thing that ever happened. So hype kept building and building. I'm working at the American Multi Cinema AMC theaters 30 in South Houston, and the line starts building 2 days before it opens on May 19th, maybe 3 days before, on May 19th, 1999. The this 30 screen theater is massive. I mean, it's I don't know how many acres, but it's I don't know how many, the square feet, but it's fucking huge. Okay, that's all I can say. And the line goes from the inside waiting, from the inside of the building. It goes all the way from the inside, and it goes all the way around the building, all the way to the outside, to the box office. There's like a courtyard in the center. There's a circle, and then there's two box office stands, and that's all. The people are waiting for 2 or 3 days straight. There's people in costume. There's Princess Leia's. Are people camping out? It's fucking nuts. And then people inside the building too, waiting for days for Star Wars. It's almost reminiscent of the 1977, the stories that my uncle would tell in Dallas, Texas. He said that the lines for the original Star Wars also went through the theater and all the way around the buildings. He said it went down the blocks. And so I believed him because it was Star Wars. Star Wars used to mean something. It didn't mean content creation. It didn't mean put a chick in it and make it gay. Star Wars used to be great. It used to be good. It used to be like top of the line. It used to be quality. It used to be fantastic. But make Star Wars great again, okay? No, I'm not. Under Disney control and leadership, as liberal and as globalist as it is, I don't see it being ever making a Star Wars that's made for Americans, made for hardworking, blue collar, or any collar Americans. I can't see it being made for the American people if it's so in league with a globalist empirical cabal, if it's so entrenched in politics that it doesn't make entertainment anymore. It makes propaganda. It makes indoctrination vehicles. It does not make entertainment. So back in the day, entertainment was created for entertainment, purpose A, and then, actually purpose A is profit. So entertainment industry was made for profit, making money, and then the economic motivation, the second one was to make something entertaining. And maybe a third motivation might be to try to make something with a legacy that endures. And so trying to have a legacy might also be a third component. It's okay. The classic old studios, their motivation was always profit and entertainment, and then after that, perhaps legacy. But the motivation was not put a chick in it and make it gay. It was not, we need to have a Jedi. We need to make a story about a intersectional African lesbian Jedi in the Star Wars. We just need the diversity, equity, and inclusion. That really wasn't the. Sure, they'd have a strong female character, Princess Leia, and that was cool. No one that was part of the story. You know what I mean? It wasn't. It didn't feel like it was shoved down our throats. It didn't feel like that. It was a character in the story. It felt like a natural progression. Billy D. Williams, an African American hero of in Star Wars, the best friend of Han Solo, that seemed very natural. Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian. It didn't seem like it was forced diversity or anything. James Earl Jones was Darth Vader, even though the character is white. The James Earl Jones had the badass voice in the Darth Vader suit. So, anyways, so none of the diversity or equity or inclusion seemed forced back in the original prequels or the original trilogy. So, yeah, this Disney shit, it seems like everything is forced, and it seems like all the females are magical, and all the ethnic or minority characters or the colored characters are magical, and it just doesn't seem. Everything seems forced in the Disney Star Wars universe, run by Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy. None of it seems natural. It doesn't seem like a natural flow. It seems like, oh well, we checked off boxes. We put a lesbian here, and we put a black girl here, and then we put whatever over here. Everything seems forced instead of a natural thing. So. Star Wars Episode 1, the movie itself, is released. I saw it in the employee screening it was May 17th, 1999, before the movie comes out. I saw the employee screening and, yeah, I watched it. Star Wars Episode 1, A Phantom Menace. And I thought to myself, whoa, my expectations were way too high. And I bought tickets for me and my friends. I worked at the box office, slaved that whole week and weekend, or that whole, probably the whole month, selling tickets for that thing, and booking up all the showings of it. Just endless people over and over again. Yes, 2 tickets to Star Wars, 5 tickets to Star Wars, 10 tickets to Star Wars. At the box office, working and working, and then working in the sometimes in the usher, sometimes in the concession stands. Not really too much in the projection, but yeah, I knew how to do it if I had to. And so, yeah. So I think they needed a lot of help at the box office to sell the tickets, because you had to sell the tickets because everybody wanted to see this epic, grand, super hype movie that was going to change the landscape of cinema and feature films forever and entertainment forever. That was going to win all the Oscars for acting, writing, and directing. Everybody wanted to see this movie that apparently was going to do all of these amazing things. And yeah. So the hype machine was epic. And right, we saw the movie and it didn't, our expectations were up here because of the original trilogy, and there hadn't been a Star Wars movie in 17 years, which is a long time. That's enough for somebody to be born and turn 17 and their age to consent to sex. And so whoa. Yeah, that's a long time. You can grow a human being during that time. They could almost be able to vote. So it was a long time. And yeah. So the movie didn't live up to expectations. Because you know why? Because our expectations were astronomical. They were too high. And but everybody treated it as the second coming of Jesus Christ. And so I bought so the showings wouldn't sell out on May 19th. I bought the tickets for my buddies, and so we could get a guaranteed seat. Since I was on the inside, I bought a ticket for myself and my 3 other friends. And then I resisted telling them the movie kind of sucked. And just so, I didn't want to shatter their dreams. I didn't want to disappoint them. So I decided to not really talk much about it. So if a friend said, hey, was the movie great? I know you went to the employee screening. I'd be like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Fantastic. Just kind of tell a little white lie just until, and then they'd see it and then they'd. Now the movie doesn't totally suck, but it is very exposition. Has a lot of expositionary. It's kind of tells more, and it doesn't like the old Star Wars. It tells you less, and it shows you more. They always say a number one rule of writing and literary craft is to show more and to talk less, to detail less, and so you show more, and then the audience is smart enough to fill in the blanks. Is the idea is that you show more and you detail less. Well, this movie was more a lot of heavy lifting, a lot of world building, a lot of exposition, a lot more economics and politics than any Star Wars fan had ever seen up to this point in Star Wars. A lot more economics, a lot more politics. And so this movie is about a trade war in a galactic federation of tax routes. Tax routes? I don't know. It didn't seem very Star Wars, the Federation tax routes, blockade of the planet Naboo, and yeah. The Jedi's the Jedi are the IRS now. They work for Joe Biden. They're armed guards of the IRS. You didn't pay your taxes. Open up. Oh man. Yeah, that's not who the Jedi are supposed to be. They're supposed to the Jedi are supposed to fight for peace and justice in the old republic. Oh boy. Yeah. Okay, I guess they're just IRS agents that the Biden-Harris administration have hired to crack down on tax evaders. The taxation of the... Yeah. All right, it's a lot more boring. The prequels are a lot more dapper at first. But the first movie in particular is tedious. It's lumbering. There's too much exposition. They even do the cardinal sin, George Lucas does, of trying to explain the Force scientifically with the infamous now midi-chlorians. And Anakin is, yeah, I know he's the prodigal son. He's the son born of a virgin birth. He's the chosen one, which is an allegory to the New Testament and in the Holy Bible. Mary is Joseph and Mary. Mary gives the virgin birth to Jesus Christ. Mary Magdalene. So then Liam Neeson, playing Qui-Gon Jinn, asks the mother of Anakin Skywalker, so who was the father? And she's like, there was no father. He just one day came inside. He was just inside myself and popped out. He just popped out my vagina. And one day he was there. And then the audience is just like, no father, because it's like the Bible, you see? It's like the Bible. It's like the Christian Bible, okay? Magical shit happens. You don't need a scientific explanation. So the Star Wars Episode 1 of Phantom Menace, it explains where it should not explain. It tries to explain the Force with midi-chlorians. So it tries to science stuff that doesn't need sciencing. And then it doesn't explain stuff like virgin births and magical births without fathers. So it kind of commits two cardinal sins in the same film, and it talks too much. It's too much exposition. So now, if this was your first Star Wars movie, you would say, "Wow," right? And because the special effects, well, they're kind of dated now. I mean, the CGI was early, late, late 1990s, early 2000-ish type CGI, which isn't so great, which looks kind of like a video game, like an old Sony PlayStation video game or something. So then, yeah, there's that. The CGI doesn't look very convincing. Um, are we gonna talk about Jar Jar Binks? That's like a whole nother. You could do an entire episode on Jar Jar Binks. The first fully animated CGI character, really not. I don't think not the first CGI animated character ever in a movie. That's arguably who that is. But you have like, I don't know, Terminator 2, the T-1000. He's partially animated. So maybe even before that. I mean, you had animated characters, Who Framed Roger Rabbit and so on. But your first fully functional CGI, computer generated imagery character with his own, played by Ahmed Best. I don't know if that goes to Jar Jar Binks. I don't want to go through all of Hollywood in the 1990s and 1980s to find out who was the first character. But Jar Jar Binks, totally CGI character interacting with the other protagonists and antagonists in the film. Comic relief, he's supposed to be like C-3PO, because C-3PO in this film is not even completed by Anakin Skywalker yet. He's not even finished. So he's not providing comic relief. I kind of look at Jar Jar Binks with reverence. It's kind of funny to think about. Misa, Weeza, Dooza, Dooza. It is sort of funny. A lot of people complained that Jar Jar Binks was racist because he sounded like kind of Jamaican-ish. And, hey, man, what you doing? That sort of thing. And he kind of has dreadlocks like a Jamaican, which is kind of bizarre as well. Misa, no, what's a poodoo? Yeah, when they say poodoo a lot, what's going on with the fart jokes in this movie? I don't know. There's a lot of fart jokes. I appreciate fart jokes. I appreciate the cult of the fart. I appreciate the jokes of the fart. I appreciate the fart, the scatological doo-doo humor. I appreciate that universe in comedy. Farting, and all these things. I appreciate it. The doo-doo, the poo-poo, and there's a part where an alien horse or camel takes a fart, and you see his like alien butthole or something, and then it's like, and then Jar Jar Binks is trying to fix the pod racer, and then he's like, oh, the fart almost knocks him out, and then he drops some shit, and yeah, if you're into the alien fart jokes, or just because they show the creature relieving itself, and then Jar Jar's like, oh, and then he drops the wrench into the pod. So if you're into that, if you thought that was funny, you're not wrong. You're not wrong for thinking the alien farting was funny. It's one of the best parts of the movie. Okay, if there was just more fart jokes in that movie, you just had just a little bit more aliens farting and Jar Jar just going, ah. Maybe that could have been the gag, right? The gag of C-3PO is that he's afraid of everything, and so he has bad anxiety. So that alien tentacle gets around him, and he's like, oh, and that's like part of the funny part of C-3PO's character is that he has really bad anxiety.
and that causes the comedy, and a lot of the comedy. And then Jar Jar, his thing could have been like aliens farting, and then he could have been reacting to the farts. And I would have liked to have seen more of that. They should have had more Jar Jar in the trilogy, just reacting to alien gaseous discharges from their assholes and their anuses. I would have said, "Oh, this is more of this, please." People probably think I'm being facetious right now. I'm not. I'm like, should have been more of that. More of, woo, pooza wooza, oh, the poopy. I would have, oh man. He might have won, Ahmed Best might have won Best Actor, Best, Best Voice Actor. Shit, the movie would have won Best Picture. Just a few more fart jokes would have just got it to the level. Got it to the level. And so we were disappointed that Star Wars: The Phantom Menace wasn't the greatest movie of all time. So there's so much heavy exposition explaining the Force, which was like a cardinal sin in Star Wars fandom up to that point. You don't explain the Force with science. There is no science of the Force. The Force just is. It's like spirituality. It's like God. It just is. You don't. Are you questioning it? You're questioning it with science. No, you're trying to explain God with science, all this stuff. No. That's not what spirituality is. That's not what mystery is. Not explanation. Mystery is a mystery because it's intriguing. It draws people in, the mystery of things. Now, if they had a book that just explained everything, or you had a deity that came down from heaven and said, "Oh, I'm going to tell you everything," well, that would spoil the mystery of life and of movies and lore and mythology. It would just spoil everything. So, and then it also didn't explain the virgin birth, even though that was an obvious parallel to the New Testament and the Holy Bible. So it was also, but it was like, if you see a mother character and the guy asks, "Hey, who's the father?" And then she says, "There was no father." And then they just go, "Oh, he just grew inside me and popped out." Oh, yes. That's how most babies are born, right? They're just automatically inside the mother. They just magically pop out. So explaining some things too much and then not explaining enough about some things, it's not congruent. And so pod racing, no one gave a shit. Whatever. A lot of the movie felt like filler. It's just filler, just hanging out. I mean, it probably would have been good if they would have gave us some weed or something, like we would have been high, and then that would have been okay. But we didn't have any marijuana, so it just was like it was filler. It was space wasting, and it was just too long and too tedious. And yeah, Natalie Portman is hot, but that wasn't enough to keep our interest. I mean, sure, Natalie Portman is hot. She's cute. But that's not enough to sustain. Keira Knightley is banging hot, but that's not enough to sustain our interest during the entire movie. So maybe if it was Scarlett Johansson, 18 years old, with like some big knockers and bootylicious butt cheeks, maybe then we would have been, like really hooked. But put Scarlett Johansson's Queen Amidala and some big knockers, some big butt cheeks, just rolling around, Maybe that would have kept our interest a little bit longer. Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, it was pretty good. I mean, it's hard to beat Alec Guinness, but it's playing a young Obi-Wan Kenobi. I think he did one of the finest jobs that I think any other actor could have done. Just about. So fantastic, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon Jinn, excellent. Yeah. Ian McDiarmid playing Chancellor Palpatine, who would become Emperor Palpatine. He put in a fantastic performance. As he wasn't really given a lot to do, but it was like, yeah. His big performance would come in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, at the end of the trilogy, of the prequel trilogy. So, but then Darth Maul shows up. So you've been watching this shit for 2 hours, and it's been pretty boring so far, and pretty stupid so far, pretty retarded. And then you see Darth Maul earlier when he tries to attack Anakin, but and Qui-Gon, but just a little bit, and you just see him in bits and pieces. He's talking to Chancellor or Emperor Palpatine. You pretty much know that the Chancellor is the Sith Lord, but if you've seen Return of the Jedi, you kind of figure it out. That Chancellor Palpatine is not a good guy. That he's really an evil Dark Lord that's just maneuvering himself inside the internal politics of the Galactic Republic. But maybe some people don't figure that out. They think he's a malevolent entity, that he's not working inside the political framework of the Galactic Republic. So, I saw if you saw the original trilogy, then you kind of put two and two together, that they're one and the same. Maybe some other people were confused. I certainly wasn't. So, so then there's the climactic battle, the battle for Naboo, with the lightsaber duel with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn, the duel of the fates. And it's pretty epic. And the John Williams score is amazing. You could watch that fight, that lightsaber duel. It's well choreographed. Ray Park as Darth Maul. Probably should have been given. He wasn't a really bad actor. And I think the writers and the directors of the time were too afraid that he was just a martial arts, physical guy, and he wasn't a good actor, because they really didn't give him a shot, whether it was X-Men 2000 or Darth Maul. They really didn't write him a lot of lines, because I suppose they feared that he couldn't act. Really, you had these people like Dwayne Johnson. They can't fucking act, or Mark Wahlberg, and these guys are everywhere making these shitty movies all the time. These guys can't fucking act either. They're bad. They're really bad. And they are in movies all the time. And so, yeah, I think the studio and the writers, producers, and directors, I think they had low faith in Ray Park. I think he should have been a bigger deal. But that's just me. I think Ray Park was a lot more talented, or he could have been trained to be a better actor. He could have delivered more lines, and it would have made the movies better, instead of him being more silent. Sometimes being more silent isn't intimidating. Sometimes it seems like it's a lack of faith by the studios, that they're just like, well, this guy's great at choreography. This guy's great at martial arts, but we're not going to give him any lines because he's just not good. It would be like, well, Arnold Schwarzenegger isn't good at English, so we're not going to give him many lines, or something like. Or Arnold Schwarzenegger has a really thick Austrian accent. We're not going to give him many lines because he sounds silly. So we're just not going to do it, because he's not a great actor. So we're just not going to help him out or help him train or anything. We're not going to do that. Sorry, we're just too lazy. We're not going to do that. Oh. But, yeah. But Ray Park has enough lines to be intimidating. And it kind of helps to be a Dark Lord of the Sith, because he's dressed like Satan. He has those devil horns and the black and white, the tattoos all over him and everything. He looks very badass. So you would have liked to have seen the makeup sessions for Ray Park as Darth Maul. I bet they were grueling. It was one of those makeup sessions he had to start at like 4 a.m. and just stay in the makeup chair for 3 hours or 5 hours or something. Finally, he's like, I'm Darth Maul after sitting in the chair for 3 to 4 hours, and then he'd go out to the sound stages in Pinewood or wherever, and yeah, I bet that was a fascinating journey for him. So I'm sure I could watch a documentary or something, some old footage, and be entertained by that. But Star Wars Episode 1, A Phantom Menace, 25 years later, yeah, the hype overwhelmed the actual film. But the film was not so terrible that I was disappointed. I guess most fans were disappointed in themselves because they had raised the bar. The expectations were higher than the reality, and that was the crushing thing, is that the expectations outweighed the reality. That was the hard thing to deal with, is that we had hyped this up so much. Imagine people, they told you you had a religion, and they told you that God was going to come down one day at this particular place, at this particular time, and millions of people gathered, and they were waiting for it and waiting for it. And then they looked behind the curtain, and it was the Wizard of Oz. And it was just an old man behind a projection machine. And it would be disappointing. And so that's what this felt very much like, was that people had really unrealistic expectations for Star Wars Episode 1. And then after we saw the film, we felt, I think as Star Wars fans, we felt more disappointed in ourselves than, I know Liam Neeson just recently said on X.com, he said, I know a lot of people still don't like this movie 25 years later, but it was cool because I got to play a Jedi. And then so people are making fun of him for saying, oh, I got to play a Jedi though. So it was good for me. It wasn't good for you guys really, but it was really good for me because it was cool because I got to play a Jedi. And that's true. It was very good for him, and the paycheck for him was really good. But and his performance was excellent as Qui-Gon Jinn, and as short-lived as it was. But yeah, it was cool that he got to play a Jedi. In 1999, they had a really cool Star Wars arcade that was like, it was very difficult though, and I lost a lot of quarters. The point of the arcade game is to make you lose all your money, right? And I was losing all my money, but I loved it. You got to actually duel. Sometimes I was in the lobby playing the Star Wars arcade, and you got to duel Darth Vader, but it was like super hard. But it was like it was a lot of fun. The graphics for the arcades in 1999 were considerably better than the ones in 1985 when I played that original Atari cabinet for the Star Wars Death Star trench run. So, yeah. Well, dueling Darth Vader on the arcade in 1999 was difficult because, of course, the game wants you to lose all your money, so you keep on playing. They want you to, by the time you beat Darth Vader, they want you to spend $20 in coins. So I was like, fuck that. Rather just lose and then save my $20 in quarters. But plus, you seem like you're a drug addict, right? If you're continually playing the machine and you're like, I need another 20. I'm about to beat Vader. You seem like kind of a crackhead. If that particular, you seem like a junkie when you act like that. Yeah, so I'll keep this as a memento. Star Wars Episode 1 trailer. Will I ever get to play this on a projection? The Episode 1 teaser? Well, probably
not. Not because the film itself is degraded, but just because I won't have access to a film machine, which will probably already in museums. So maybe one day I'll get a film projector, and maybe I'll buy one or something. No, I'm not gonna go out of my way to play this. I already did plenty enough times back in the day, so. I myself have to go take a poodoo myself, so God bless, best of success. Normally, if May 19th hit on a Monday, like today, I just decided no, Sunday I'm too busy, and so that's why I did my homage, the 25th anniversary now. I know a lot of people did it like weeks early or a month early or 2 months early, but I figured from a from a former movie theater, somebody who worked the movie theaters during the release of Star Wars Episode 1 of Phantom Menace, that it'd be a little bit, perhaps a little bit more interesting, maybe, than your usual content creator that wasn't there when the movie was released or anything like that. So, God bless and best of success.